Hi, welcome to this edition of Hot Topics. I'm Trey Mayo, Fire Chief for the City of Rocky Mount, and today we are filming from Fire Station 7, which is located on NC4. Engine 7 serves the area of Battleboro, Gold Rock, and Belmont Lake Preserve, which was formerly known as Ford's Colony. And joining us today is Fire Engineer Todd Joyner. Todd is the fire department's sort of unofficial historian. And today we're going to be talking about a photo journal, annual, yearbook sort of thing that Todd has been working very diligently on putting together. Here you see a draft copy of it, and we're going to talk about some of the things in this book in detail. But first, Todd, welcome. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
Todd, tell us, how long have you been working on this project?
This book has been about a little over a year and a half in its creation, from the start to now. It basically sprung from this book here, which is the 1996 Rocky Mount Centennial. The fire department had its centennial in 1996, made it 100 years old. And back in that time, we decided to create a book commemorating that. So we went back and did a history book on the history of the fire department up to 1996. And since then, of course, 16 years later, we've had a lot of people come and go from the fire department. Our membership is very young now, and a lot of interest was created by people asking about this book, and was there a way of getting another one of these, which there isn't. And so we decided to create another history book and add a lot more features to it. So that's where it comes from.
I know this is, I did not, my entire career has not been spent with the Rocky Mount Fire Department, and I keep a copy of this, the Centennial book, in my office, and mine is probably worth more than all the rest of them, because mine, I can't remember now if my cover is on backwards or if the cover is on upside down, so I'm holding that one close to me, hoping it'll be worth a lot of money one day. But
Wow.
but I use my copy, I refer to it fairly routinely, just when I need to know some little piece of history about the Rocky Mount Fire Department for various things. So a lot of good information in that book, and as you alluded to, I can just look at these two books and tell that this one is, the new book has far more pages in it, and more information, and more photographs, and more history, and that's very much a credit to you and all the work that you've put into this new project. So we certainly appreciate the time and effort and the dedication you have put forth. So you've one of my first questions was going to be, what kind of generated the interest about this book, and you've pretty much already covered that. Again, alluding to the fact that the original was done at the fire department's 100-year anniversary. We were officially incorporated as a fire department in 1896. That's what the original charter shows. So fairly old organization, and a lot of history has been amassed here in the Rocky Mount Fire Department. And one thing that has impressed me is how well the Rocky Mount Fire Department has held on to a lot of historical documents and photographs and pieces of equipment and apparatus when we could, that have just served to enrich the history of the fire department. The guys over the years, over the decades, have just done an outstanding job of hanging on to and preserving a lot of that stuff. And there's no better evidence of it than at the Fire Museum, which is located on the corner of Church Street and Hammond, where the public can go in during business hours during the week, and they can view some of the history of the Rocky Mount Fire Department as it has been preserved. So tell us some of the differences between the two books, between the original Centennial 1996 edition and the current version.
Well, first of all, the Centennial book, when you were talking about the size and all, our new book is a little bit larger. This Centennial book has 152 pages in it and has probably around 436 photographs in it. All of that was in black and white.
Now, you said around 436 photographs, but that gives me the impression that you counted them.
Well, I counted them, but I'm not gonna, don't hold me to my math to the number, but it's in that neighborhood.
Okay, go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay. So that's what we have in our Centennial book. And our new book, has 204 pages and well over 1,000 photographs. And I would probably say around 85% of those are in color. Of course, obviously, through the history section, you know, before color photos were available or the technology was there, you have black and white photos there. But the rest of them are in color, and I think it really brings out a lot of life to the book.
So the new book is approximately 50 pages larger, and you've added over 600 photographs, or about 600 photographs, it sounds like. So where did you come up with all that information? And you know, I know there's some history in there, there are some stories in there, you know, all those photographs. Where'd you find all that stuff?
A lot. Some of the photographs in here are contributed through fire department members. But I can honestly say the bulk of the photos, other than the history photos that come from the department's own bank of or library of photos, the majority of the new photos come from our fire photographer, Bob Bartos. He has been with us for, 3, maybe 4 years now?
He's been here longer than I have. I'd say 3 or 4 years at least.
Okay. And he has done a phenomenal job of photographing our people at work, not only in the stations, but on the fire ground. He has contributed very much photo-wise into the book. And then I have a fire captain, David Winstead. He has been taking photographs since his rookie days of being a rookie here. So he's got over 20-some years worth of photographs that he contributed. Probably between those two individuals alone and everything else considered, we probably had around 6,000 photographs or better to pick and choose from to develop this book.
And certainly we need to mention Bob Bartos. He deserves a lot of credit. He did some work professionally as a fire and I think police photographer.
Yes, sir.
When he and his wife lived in New Jersey. They've moved south to Rocky Mount, and he volunteers his time and really does a marvelous job getting out of bed at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and coming out to fires and taking photographs. And of course the proliferation of digital photography has aided us also, because you know, now you can buy a digital camera for what, $100 or so, and take relatively decent photographs. And the battalion chiefs, they have digital cameras on their command vehicle. So when they have a second or two, you know, they snap a few photographs. We use them for training, but also just to document the history of the fire department for projects like this book that you have spent so much time putting together for us. So, you know, I talked about, you know, some of the history and some of the stories. Tell us a couple of interesting things about the books, a couple of things that might lure the viewers in.
Well, the unique thing about the new book versus the Centennial book is the Centennial book, it actually just covers the basic chronological history of the fire department and the current members of 1996, where the new book has got some interesting sections in it. One particular section that I'm very proud of is the legacy of African American firefighters. When I was researching this book up in the City Hall and the City Vault with all the City Council records back in 1995 is when we actually started working on this book. It was revealed to me that we had a black fire company that was actually already operating, fully uniformed, operating, had a man-drawn ladder apparatus on the 100 block of East Thomas Street. And they were actually in operation and serving the citizens of Rocky Mount 11 months prior to the August 10th, 1896 charter of the Rocky Mount Fire Department. And through researching about that particular company, there were some other unique things about them, and one in particular was a fire captain was interviewed in 1952 from the Telegram's newspaper accounts, Captain E.J. Wales, and he had served the department for around 40-some years. And he actually had eyewitness accounts of watching the Bucket Brigade in action. He talked of a fire that was in what they used to call Little Raleigh, which was actually around South Rocky Mount end of town, that they had a fire there, and the Bucket Brigade responded, pulling their ladder wagon, and they actually got on scene and had the fire out before the regular fire company with the steamer and the horse-drawn steamer and all that could get there and get set up. And he talked about how well and efficiently and quickly this bucket brigade was. And I got to thinking about it in that particular story that he gave, and started looking at the city maps of the time from where they had to pull their ladder wagon from to where probably about the fire would be a good estimate of around 12 city blocks. So these guys had to be in incredible shape physically to be able to do that, get there, set up a bucket brigade, and actually have the fire completely out before the rest of the department could get there. And so that's just pretty extraordinary information right there, and that's covered in the African American legacy section of the book.
Gotcha. And one of the things that's not immediately apparent until you go back and think about how things were 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, was fire companies they didn't have, as you've already pointed out, even the fire department, after it was chartered, they didn't have motorized fire apparatus until some years later.
Yes, sir.
So everything was either horse-drawn or man-drawn, and because of that, the fire companies were situated, sort of in neighborhoods. It was sort of different sections of the city had fire companies, and this all-black fire company that you're referring to in the 100 block of East Thomas Street, for folks who are familiar with Rocky Mount, they will recognize that as being in the area of the Douglas block, which the city has spent a lot of time and effort revitalizing that part of downtown, and it's quite a showpiece now. But that was, many years ago, that was the African American business district, if you will, and that's where a lot of the African American citizens live. So that's where that African American fire company was based, because that's predominantly who lived in that area. So the various little parts of town, the fire companies in those parts of town were made up by the people who lived there.
That's right.
Another thing I found interesting is that one of the members of that black fire company died at a training during or after a training evolution in Warrenton.
Yes, sir.
And not to take anything away from Warrenton, but today you don't think of that being sort of a hub for training. In Warrenton, North Carolina, it's quite a rural part of the state, but when you think back to the way things were 100 years ago, things being much different, all of this part of the state was rural, and certainly within the realm of possibility that they would have traveled to Warrenton to do fire training.
In addition to that, Chief, back in those days, of course, fire departments, as kind of like they are today and so much, was always in need, could always use a couple of extra dollars for equipment and whatnot. And back in those days, insurance companies and all would sponsor what they call firefighter musters, where they would, fire departments would come together and compete in certain towns, and there would be a prize for it, and departments would actually compete in these drills and such, actually to win money to bring back to the station to be able to buy more equipment and all. Our steamer engine was actually loaded up a couple of different times on board a train and carried to different parts of the state to compete with other steamers and getting first water on a fire, if you will. And there was always a financial purse or prize for that. And the department won a couple of times on that. But that was as you say, back during that time, I guess that was just a way of life when it come to how the fire service operated and the way they procured their monies and whatnot.
Things certainly have changed, and even today you see as part of fire expos and various shows around the country, firefighters will still assemble for these musters that you speak of, and it's not unusual to see a competition amongst old steam fire apparatus. They had one last year in August in Raleigh as part of the South Atlantic Fire Expo, and I expect that they'll have another one this year. So, a lot of that history hangs on in the fire service. Any other remarkable stories
Well,
from the book?
like I said, there's other sections of the book. There's that particular section. We have a section entitled to our, I call it our ceremonial fire apparatus, which is a Mack fire engine. It's a 1970 Mack fire engine that was purchased, and it was purchased out of tragedy to the fire department. On January 6, 1970, one of our firefighters, Spencer Van Griffin, was on an engine company responding to an oil heater fire out of headquarters fire station, and they had a collision in an intersection just behind the fire station, basically, and firefighter Griffin was killed at the scene. And so not only did that, but was our third line of duty death in the fire department, but it created a terrible hardship, as we can only imagine, with the loss of a firefighter. But on the operational end for the fire department, we were down a whole pumping apparatus. A whole pumper was destroyed.
Was destroyed, okay.
Yes, sir. And of course, back in 1970s, we didn't have the resources that we have now with the extra pieces of equipment and whatnot. Were not available at that time. And from talking to the people that lived during that time and experienced this actual incident, it would take around a year to a year and a half to be able to buy or procure a brand new fire engine. Most fire departments, when they set out to get a fire engine. And but the Mack fire engine was basically purchased, and it was purchased and dedicated in the name of Spencer Griffin, giving his life in the line of duty. And that truck served the city for near about 30 years before we took it out of service. And Chief Mullen at the time, he decided to make that truck a ceremonial truck that the city would hold on to. And so it was totally refurbished, stripped down, repainted, redone, and it was returned to its original state of the delivery date of when it came in 1970 to serve the fire department. And we use it now as a parade hearse, showpiece. It's won different awards at fire department musters and fire department gatherings, and we're very proud of that truck. But that's the history behind the whole reason that we ever had the Mack truck. The Mack was also the first diesel fire engine that the fire department ever purchased. Everything up to then was a gasoline engine. So very neat truck, and has a lot of history, and it's very beloved by the fire department.
And that Mack, the Mack fire engines, and I think Mack quit building fire trucks about 1980 or 1982. They got out of the fire apparatus business, but they were very simple, no frills fire trucks. They weren't loaded up with electronics like fire trucks are today. They had manual transmissions. Everything was a mechanical linkage, and they always worked. Mm-hmm. And that particular Mack engine was destined for West Warwick, Rhode Island, mm-hmm. and was diverted to Rocky Mount.
Yes, sir. They had ordered two, I believe, wasn't it, Chief?
I think that's right.
Two fire engines. So.
And contact was made with the dealer, and it was communicated what a dire need we had here in Rocky Mount for a fire engine, and West Warwick agreed to divert one of the two to Rocky Mount, and they just placed an order for another one. And for the viewers, you'll recognize the name West Warwick, Rhode Island. That's where the station nightclub fire was. Mm-hmm. I believe that was in 2000, mm-hmm. Which is one of the largest loss of life fires in America. Mm-hmm. I think 100 people died in that fire. That was where they had the pyrotechnic display that set off internal interior flammable finish on the interior of the station nightclub during a Great White concert. Mm-hmm. I actually was in an executive fire officer program class with a battalion chief from West Warwick, Rhode Island. So, mm-hmm. Just another example of how small the world is.
Oh, yes, it is.
So, any other stories you have from the book for us?
Well, like I said, there's different sections. We've got a section on the museum in there. We're very proud of our museum. It houses our steamer engine. It also has many of a lot of the photos that are in this book are featured also in the museum. We have an active game well fire alarm device that's set up in there, and it's set up just the way it was in the days when the city had fire alarm boxes on every street corner. Very neat thing to look at. If you're a fire buff, you'd really enjoy that. But there's a little section in there on the museum, a lot of great pictures and a good history on how that actual building. That actual building was our second fire station ever, or the first fire station custom built for the fire department.
Right.
It was built in 1929, and they moved into it Christmas Eve of 1929, I believe, and it stayed a fire station until 1976 when the city relocated Fire Station 2, and then it went probably until from then until the 1990s. It served as another business for Rocky Mount that the city leased the building out for a tire business. And then after the flood in 1999, and we lost our fire training establishment, which was our old fire station number 3 on Sunset Avenue. We lost it in the flood. I think some federal monies and some ideas come along to renovate old fire station number 2 because it was considered an antique or older structure. And so the fire department decided to do that and turn it into the Life Safety and Emergency Management building. And we had the extra room to create the fire department museum.
Gotcha. And speaking of Hurricane Floyd, I remember there was a section in here that
Yes,
details the history of Floyd and,
Yes, sir.
you know, all the experiences, if you will, and the rescues and things that went on during Hurricane Floyd. This has been quite informative. Anything else you'd like to mention? How about the now this is a softbound version here.
Yeah.
This is hard. This is the original, the Centennial book from '96 was hardcover.
Mm-hmm.
This one's going to be hardcover.
Yes, sir. This is actually just a rough draft of what we currently have. You can see all the features in it, and there's some writing and scribbling in it because we're making some final adjustments. But with everything that's in it, it'll actually have a hardbound cover like the Centennial book, and it'll be either a royal blue or a navy blue in color, and it'll look kind of like a leather finish. And in gold letters, you'll have Rocky Mount, and then our RMFD logo, which is on the door of every fire engine that we have in the center, and then fire department at the bottom. But it'll be nicely made like this, with the hand-stitched spine in it and whatnot. This book is 16 years old, and to me it looks virtually brand new.
It does look, it's in great shape.
This book, like this one, it is built that if some care is made to it, it'll last a long, long time.
Sure. And how much, if viewers are interested in buying a copy?
Right now the price isn't continually down, but we're going to be between $142 and $90.
Depending on how many we sell.
Depending on how many we sell.
Hopefully we'll be down closer to that $90 price range.
That's our goal.
Right. Well, I certainly am excited about it, and you know, it just bears mentioning. You know, no taxpayer investment has gone into producing this book. You've done this thing on off-duty time, and you know, we sell it for what it costs us. You know,
Yes,
we're not
sir.
making anything on it, and we're not investing any taxpayer dollar in it. This is just a project that we're doing as a sort of an extracurricular thing, if you will. So,
Yes, sir.
If a viewer is interested, and we certainly hope you are interested in buying one of these books, how would they go about doing that?
You can call one of two ways. One, you can call the fire headquarters station and talk to our administrative secretary, Miss Vicki Price. Her number is 972-1498. You can give her your information, and when it becomes available that we start actually selling the books, we'll contact you and let you know the details on that. And you can also access our website. It's at fire@rockymountnc.gov, and the website will also feature the book, and it'll give you another way of contacting the department if you're wishing to buy one.
All right, so just send an email to fire@rockymountnc.gov.
Basically, yes.
Okay,
That's
fire@rockymountnc.gov. Well, Todd, I really appreciate you joining me today on the show. Thank you, viewers. And as always, I'd like to remind you of our website, rockymountfire.gov. It is not, I got the email address on my mind now. It is RockyMountFire.org. RockyMountFire.org is our website. We also have Facebook and Twitter accounts, so like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, keep up with everything that's going on in the Rocky Mount Fire Department. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Todd, and we'll see you next time. Experiences, if you will, and the rescues and things that went on during Hurricane Floyd. This has been quite informative. Anything else you'd like to mention? How about the now this is a softbound version here.
Yeah.
This is hard. This is the original, the Centennial book from '96 was hardcover. This one's going to be hardcover.
Yes, sir. This is actually just a rough draft of what we currently have. You can see all the features in it, and there's some writing and scribbling in it because we're making some final adjustments. But with everything that's in it, it'll actually have a hardbound cover like the Centennial book, and it'll be either a royal blue or a navy blue in color, and it'll look kind of like a leather finish. And in gold letters, you'll have Rocky Mount, and then our RMFD logo, which is on the door of every fire engine that we have in the center, and then fire department at the bottom. But it'll be nicely made like this, with the hand-stitched spine in it and whatnot. This book is 16 years old, and to me, it looks virtually brand new.
It does look, it's in great shape.
This book, like this one, it is built that if some care is made to it, it'll last a long, long time.
Sure. And how much, if viewers are interested in buying a copy?
Right now, the price isn't continually down, but we're going to be between $142 and $90.
Depending on how many we sell.
Depending on how many we sell.
Hopefully, we'll be down closer to that $90 price range.
That's our goal.
Right. Well, I certainly am excited about it, and it just bears mentioning. No taxpayer investment has gone into producing this book. You've done this thing on off-duty time, and we sell it for what it costs us.
Yes,
we're not
sir.
making anything on it, and we're not investing any taxpayer dollar in it. This is just a project that we're doing as a sort of an extracurricular thing, if you will. So,
Yes, sir.
If a viewer is interested, and we certainly hope you are interested in buying one of these books, how would they go about doing that?
You can call one of two ways. One, you can call the fire headquarters station and talk to our administrative secretary, Miss Vicki Price. Her number is 972-1498. You can give her your information, and when it becomes available that we start actually selling the books, we'll contact you and let you know the details on that. And you can also access our website. It's at fire@rockymountnc.gov, and the website will also feature the book, and it'll give you another way of contacting the department if you're wishing to buy one.
All right, so just send an email to fire@rockymountnc.gov.
Basically, yes, that's
fire@rockymountnc.gov. Well, Todd, I really appreciate you joining me today on the show. Thank you, viewers, and as always, I'd like to remind you of our website, RockyMountFire.gov. I'm sorry, it is not. I got the email address on my mind now. It is RockyMountFire.org. RockyMountFire.org is our website. We also have Facebook and Twitter accounts, so like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, keep up with everything that's going on in the Rocky Mount Fire Department. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Todd, and we'll see you next time.